Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I hope everybody's doing well. First off, thanks for watching and thanks for subscribing. Second, sorry it's been a while since I uploaded a video. I've just been basically a lazy turd. The kids did come in for a week and a granddaughter, so spent some time with them. We didn't do much car stuff at all. We did work on his drag car a little bit, but not too much. So we're getting back on Project Frankenstang. I got to get the rear end restored. If you looked at the thumbnail, this video is going to be basically covering restoring a 93 Cobra rear end, what it takes, where I get my parts, and how much I actually invest in doing a complete restoration on just the rear end itself. So it's already set up on the jack stands. I've already washed it. It's been degreased. It's ready to show you guys the ugliness. Now keep in mind, this is a 23,000 mile car. It's just been sitting in less than best conditions for the past 25 or 26 years. It was inside, but the building it was in had no doors, so basically any dirt, moisture, condensation, it was exposed to all of that pretty much. So it's got a light surface rust. It's not bad. Like I said, I did degrease it. It is cleaned up. I'll show you what it looks like. I'll show you all the new parts I got. I am going to compare 93 Cobra brake lines and hoses to SN stuff. I got all that stuff set out, and I'll show you guys all that stuff as well. I'm going to show you what tools I use to take out the axle bearings and all that other stuff. Yeah. It's a lot of people struggle with axle bearings. They actually make a tool for that. I've got the tool. I'll show you what it is. I think it's an OTC tool kit. I've had it for years. Works really well. Other than that, let's check the rear end out and show you what it looks like. All right, so this is the original rear end out of Project Frankenstang over here. As you can see, the bushings themselves are not too bad, but the way that car, they're dry rotted, they're dried out a little bit. But the car, you can see there's kind of setting in at an angle, the way that rear end of the car has been hitting the back. This one's pretty straight for some reason, but you can see it's starting to dry rot and crack. I'm also going to show you how we remove those bushings. I know they do make a remove install kit, but I'll show you how I take them out. It's super easy. Drill bit and a Sawzall blade. It doesn't take much time at all. Just got to be careful not to break drill bit, and I've done that a few times. That can get kind of sketchy. So back on the rear end, if you look at the original brake pads up in there, they're super thick still, so you can tell it's a really low mileage rear end, but you can see just from setting you get rusted lines. The original hard lines are actually in good shape. The one over here is bent pretty bad. Now I have another 93 Cobra rear end. Actually I got several, but I got one that's missing some brake parts, and I'm going to reuse all this stuff on that rear end. It's going to go in another teal car. I'm probably going to build for the wife, probably about a year. So anything I take off this rear end, I'm probably going to use on that other rear end housing that's in way worse shape than these parts. So, get up to the front. This is your feed line from the chassis. It's still got good anodizing on it. You see how nice that is? But I am going to replace that. I wish the new anodizing on the new ones were gold, not silver, but that's just how it rolls. Vent tube's pretty nasty. It's pretty seized up. I do have a new Ford vent tube. I also replaced the fill plug with a new Ford fill plug. I kind of go overboard when I do these. But yeah, the rotors, I'm going to have them probably sandblasted or maybe clean them up with some rust eliminator and repaint them. Now, the thing with rotors, I'll show you. Ooh, shit, drop my glasses. The rotors from the factory were ooh, hold on a second. Anybody that likes to see Miss Baker, hey, what you doing? She's being awesome. So anyway, back to rotors. The Ford rotors, where the Ford rotor hat is at, is super thin. The aftermarket one's got about a 1/4 inch face on them, so technically you run reproduction rotors on a 93 Cobra in the rear. It's basically like adding a 1/4 inch spacer, so it kind of moves the wheel out a little bit. I think that's cool, just to give you a little bit more offset on the positive offset on the rear wheels on the 93 Cobra, because they kind of stick in a little bit anyway. But I'm going back with the original rotors on this car because they're in really good shape. I just got to clean them up, and I'm trying to keep this car somewhat as original as I can. But yeah, so I'll go over the new parts. Like I said, I've got hard lines, rubber hoses. I've got 93 Cobra hoses and SN. I'm going to show you the difference. 93 Cobra parts get expensive on these rear ends. They're way more than SN lines and hoses. I don't know why, they just are. There's a little bit more to them, the manufacturing, I think. I'm going to show you the difference. So if you've got like I won't say a beater 93 Cobra, well, let's just face it, there's a lot of beat up 93 Cobras running around. If your rear end needs restored and you don't want to spend, because honestly, the 93 Cobra parts I have for this rear end, I've probably got $600 in parts right now. So if you want to run SN parts, you can on your 93 Cobra. You just have to change a few things around, like a different screw on the hard line that goes to the caliper to the axle housing, but that's about it. So I'll show you all the new parts I got. It's looking fancy. All right, so let's break it down. These are stainless 93 Cobra lines. You see how they go around the quad shock bracket, and these are SN lines. They just go up to the holes for the brake line that's on the axle housing itself. Now I did get these from NPD. These are 93 Cobra part numbers right here. Got them from NPD. When I bought these, LMR didn't carry them. I did text the GM LMR these part numbers, so I think they got them in stock now. I don't know why they didn't have them before. Maybe they didn't hire me as a parts guy. I don't know, but yeah. These are, you'll see them in the bag. These are the 93 Cobra caliper lines. You can see they got a big bracket on them. I'll take them out of the bag here in a second. All right, so I went and took them out of the bag. This is a 93 Cobra. You see how it's got this bracket on the end where the hard line screws in? And I'll show you that on the rear end. And these are SN. This is how they bolt up on the rear end housing. So I'll walk these over there real quick. So if you're going to use a SN hose, basically this is a 93 Cobra housing. I think all the holes are drilled. They are. So the SN will use a screw into that pilot hole right there, versus the 93 Cobra, that's the bracket right here that I showed you, and then the hard line comes in right here, versus the SN line comes in right here, and it makes that little S curve for the SN line. So if you don't want to spend a lot of money restoring your 93 Cobra rear end housing, I won't say don't buy the original style parts, but if you're not ate up anal and you don't want to spend probably half the money, you can buy the SN hoses. They are a lot cheaper than the 93 Cobra. These rubber hoses right here, I think they're $130 for 2 hoses. I'll have to look that up. Maybe a little off. So let's show you what else I got going on. All right, so we also compare the Brake Best. This is AutoZone special right here, Brake Best part. It is exactly the same as the Raybestos center hose that goes on the rear end housing. So that's the center lines, just comparing those. I've got Dan Carpenter spring perch pads. I've got a new anodized fuel filter housing bracket. I've got a new anodized center housing for the brake line itself. I've got all new anodized Dan Carpenter exhaust hangers. I also bought the hanger bolt kit. Like I said, guys and gals, don't mess around when I do these. I've got a new seal for the pinion. I've got a Ford Racing Performance Parts diff bushing kit. I've got a new Ford Performance pinion right here for the diff. And I've got axle bearings and seals, Ford Racing part number, Motorsport. Now these are kind of cool. Talk about calipers real quick. These calipers are going to go on that other rear end housing I was talking about. I'm sure they're in really good shape. I know they've been setting, but they've had brake fluid in them. So I'll take a chance on something like that. If they bleed out good and they work good, I'll leave them. Use calipers, just keep an eye on them. After you put a couple hundred miles on, make sure the seals don't start leaking if they've been setting a long time. If you see your seals starting to leak some fluid, best to replace the calipers or get some rebuilt ones. Now, here, these Brake Best, these, I did say AutoZone, but these are from, crap. I think AutoZone also sells Brake Best, but I think I got these from O'Reilly's. Yeah. So when these came in, these were brand new calipers. They're not reman. As you can see, the Ford oval's missing off of them in the Ford part number. So these are a brand new reman caliper with the caliper bracket. So I thought those were pretty cool because I like the anodized color on them. I use these same calipers on Project Field Snake on that rear end as well. If you watch the underneath video and you look at that rear end housing, it's all painted and paint marked and blah, blah, blah. This one's going to be the same caliber underneath this car. So I want it to look as new as I can make it look and as OEM as I can make it look. So far, just showing you guys the parts. I'm going to show you how to take the rear end apart in this video. This might be one of my longest videos ever. I don't know. People want to see the work, so I'm going to show you all the work and the parts. Like I said, so far I've got about $500 invested in parts alone. So if you want to save a little bit of money, and now I will say if your original stuff's in good shape and your hoses are still pliable, maybe okay to just reuse what you have and just kind of clean them up. I can cover some paint that I used in the past before they started making these new rubber lines, because they didn't always offer these and they were been discontinued from Ford for a long time. The 93 Cobra caliper hoses, this is something that's been in the last, I think, year that they came out with these hoses. The first ones, I'll show you this right here. Right here, where the hose is right here pressed on. The Ford one is pressed. You can see they welded these on. The first set I got, there was screws right here into that right there, which I thought was kind of, you know, kind of cheesy. But these are welded on, and then it looks like they put some gold style anodized paint. You can see right there where it's got some welding marks on there. So they're not exactly perfect to OEM, but they're as close as we can get so far. And I think once they start making more of these and selling more, they might make that design a little bit better. But so far, I think it's a super nice setup. So let me know what you think so far. Again, I'm going to go ahead and pause this, get everything set up, let y'all watch how I take the rear end apart, how I get the pinion pin out and all that stuff. Oh, excuse me, the diff pin, the axles, C-clips, and all that stuff. For those who ain't taking an 8-point apart, they're super easy. The axle bearings are the biggest pain in the butt. And I know a lot of people struggle with the pin, the bolt on the center pin for the diff housing. I'll show you. Ford uses Loctite on that, so a lot of you guys that struggle and round the nut, I'll show you a super easy way to get that out. And we'll see what this oil looks like. This rear end's been sitting for 25, 26 years, and we'll see what the diff oil looks like. Who knows? So stick with me, and let me get all this stuff set up. The camera moved around so I can show y'all how I take these things apart. All right. So I got everything set up. Excuse my big old fat belly over there. What I normally like to try to start with on these is the calipers first, then the hard lines, then the rotors, then I'll take off the dust shields off the backing plates. I don't think y'all can see me too good. That might be a plus. So let me see real quick what kind of visual we got here as far as checking this out. All right, so got the door shut. It seems to be a better picture so you can see what I'm doing. No point making a video if you can't see what I'm actually doing here. So how I normally like to start, I'll take the calipers off first, hard lines off first, then I'll pull the rotors, dust plates, take the cover off, drain the fluid, pull the axles, and then get it ready to clean up and paint. I'll leave the pinion flange on. That way I can paint there and I don't get overspray up in the pinion bearing and all that other stuff. So just leave that on until you're ready to put your new one on there. I'll also take the snubber plate off, get cleaned up inside of there, and paint that off the rear end and then put it back on when I assemble it. So, I've already broken some of this up, or broken it loose. I've got this line off. There's a 10 mil that holds the bracket off, or you can take the 10 mil banjo nut off the rear end housing itself, which is what I'm going to do right now. Always keep a dirty rag around here. Dirty rag. Just in case you get a lot of fluid, she's going to start dripping. Now, keep in mind, the rear end housing is already clean, so I try to keep all the brake fluid off the housing because I'm going to wire wheel it and clean it up and get it painted. The last thing you want is brake fluid all over the rear end housing. So, that's one of them off of there. Now I've already broke these bolts loose with the impact gun on the caliper to the caliper bracket. So I got my little now Ford also uses Loctite on these bolts. So sometimes they don't come out. If you're using an extension like this on an impact gun and you've got a lot of play, a lot of people don't realize when you start using extensions in a socket, you lose torque off the impact gun itself. So I usually try a long 15 impact socket so I don't lose any torque to break them bolts loose. Because I tried it with this the first time, it got 3 of them loose, the fourth one it wouldn't break loose. So, actually it was the second one. Calipers, you just kind of wiggle them back and forth. They normally come off pretty easy. So that's one down. I'm going to take this loose, and there's a bracket right here that goes on the housing. That's a 5/16 or an 8 mil, and I hope I got, nope, I don't have either one, so I have to get another tool for that. So let's take this other line loose here. Like I said, I'm going to reuse these hard lines on another rear end I got outside. This one has got a little bit of bend in it right here. Like I said, I've got another bracket right here. Let me grab a screwdriver and the 8mm 5/16 for those brackets real quick. Alright, so I got a screwdriver, 5/16. Get this bracket loose real quick. Alright, so that's one hard line off. So it went out pretty easy. This one over here, we'll get it loosened up. Since we already got the socket on there. I try to keep all my nuts and bolts in one place, so when I go to clean them up, I know where they're at. Let's see, I'm going to bend that up just a little bit. Sometimes you can't get under this hard line with a wrench, so you just pry on it up a little bit so you can get under there to break it loose. I don't know, it wasn't very tight at all. Like I said, today we're just going to be going over disassembly, how to remove the bushings and the bearings. And next video, I'll go over cleaning up the rear end housing. Whether you want to put etch prime on it after you clean it. As you can see, Ford never primed these housings. They basically bare metal, rattle can, gloss black. That's why a lot of them look like this. So you can either kind of do it back the way Ford did it, or you can go a little more effort. You can etch prime them. I got some up there. Let that set, scuff it down, and then hit it with some gloss black. I use engine black paint, enamel on them. Rear end housings, it's because it lays down easy. It used to be cheap, but that damn shit's, I paid $13 for a can of black paint today from AutoZone. So, luckily, I got, not sponsored, I got a AutoZone rewards card. I don't think you know what that is. I've had that thing for years, and I bet I've got probably over $2,000 worth of free parts. And how that works, and again, I'm not sponsored by AutoZone, but if you don't have one, for every $20 you spend, you get a point, and for every 5th point, you get a free $20. Now, I don't push AutoZone, but I buy a lot of stuff from there, whether it's brake cleaner, rattle can paint, oil, whatever. Today I went in and got a can of paint, 2 cans of brake cleaner. Was $19. I had a free $20 on my card, so I went out of there. They owed me $1. So, not sponsored by AutoZone, but if you don't have a rewards card and you're trying to figure out how to save money, that helps a lot. Now, I will also say, some AutoZones price match Walmart. They all used to, but now Walmart's oil's probably the most inexpensive oil you can get, and I don't mean cheap. Motorcraft oil there, hell, for a 5-quart thing of oil, it's $26 at Walmart. In AutoZone, it's $36. That's $10 more for a 5-quart jug. They used to price match Walmart. They don't do that no more. I thought it was anything brick and mortar, but seems I guess they leave it up to their regional managers now. I don't know. Again, not sponsored by AutoZone. But if you don't have a rewards card, I'd get one. Like I said, I've got a lot of free parts from AutoZone. Now, I know some of y'all like, man, I've tore apart a rear end. I don't know how to do that. I don't need to watch a video. Well, keep in mind, a lot of people out there haven't. They don't know how to start, how to do stuff. I know it's strange for us guys that've been doing this for years, but you know, some people are just more mechanical than others, so a lot of people like to watch how-to videos. So I'm showing you how to tear this apart. I normally don't do this, but this is the first. A lot of people say, hey, I want to see the work, I want to watch the work. So I'm showing you how to do it. Now, the center line, it's a 9/16 nut on the back. There's just a stud that goes through it. There's not much to that at all. Let's see if the old impact and get it off there. Nope, a little bit too much rust on the bottom of that. Now, once you got it started, you can try to hit it. Like I said, this is just a 1/4 inch drive. Impact gun, electric, it ain't got much torque to it. So some stuff it doesn't break loose, but once you get it broke loose, it comes out pretty easy with this. I said, now, like I said, I try to keep my bolts and stuff together and all in one place so I don't lose nothing. As you can see, I'm well organized around here, right? So losing parts for me is pretty easy. All right, so I've got all the hard lines off. Now I'm gonna take the caliper now, or the rotor. On the rotor, these got some little metal clips that go over the axle studs. You need a little thin, straight screw. If you wanna try and save them, I got a box of new ones over there. But for these don't have parts laying around, you try to save them. They've got little tabs, you just bend them back and they slowly come off. So I'm gonna pause the video while I take the rotors off. And once I get those off, I'll show you those tabs so you know what I'm talking about. All right, so get a little close for y'all, too close for comfort. Now the rotor, it's a rotor right here. These little metal clips, you got one, if they've never been off, that is, most people don't put them back on. There's a little metal clip like this that goes over the axle stud. Normally I take a real thin, little bitty tip flat screwdriver and just pry these tabs back, just kind of pry them back, and then it slides off the axle stud. Now, in order to flatten them out, just lay it on the ground, smack one hammer and then flatten back out. Take a socket, start it with your hand over the stud to put it back on, take a socket and just tap it on the stud to put them back on. If you want to replace them, what that's for is that's when you go to put the caliper back on, the caliper's not flopping around like this and you don't fight it, it just slides right over the rotor itself on the axle itself. So that's how you take those off. Pretty easy. Aggravating sometimes, but pretty easy. So now I got all this apart, I'm going to take the dust shields off, go ahead and pop the cover off of it, drain that nasty shit out of it, and see what it looks like. So let's get that done. Now the dust shields, I take them off to paint them and clean them. They're normally a 5/16, 8mm. I could probably break them loose with my little buddy right here. Let's see, that's a 9, 5/16, 10. That's got it. There we go. There's 3 of them on there. Take the dust shield off. I said I broke these loose. Come off really easy. Now those I'll paint back with aluminum paint. They'll look brand new. I said we're done with this rear end. We'll have paint markings on it, new lines, new calipers. The rotors will be surfaced, look really good. All the brackets will be repainted. I'd like to find somebody to make these axle code stickers. Haven't found anybody to do that yet. Printer or something like that should be pretty easy. Or if you're not too worried about it. So that's the shields. Now, you notice I got it sitting on 3 jack stands. I got a center support and 1 on each end. Before you drain it, take that center one out, roll the rear end, because the last thing you want to do is have all this nasty stuff just on the ground. My drain pan's over there. I have to go grab that. But first, we'll knock these bolts loose. They are 1/2 inch or 13 mil, depending on what you want to use. So either one will work. Now, 9 times out of 10, everybody wondering about gear ratio. 93 Cobras are all 308 gear. Most of the time when people put gears in these cars, they normally don't put the stock tag back on it. Now me, I do even if I put a gear in one, just because I want it to look stock. I'm pretty sure this got stock in. that one loose by hand. Makes sense, it's the bottom one where all the moisture settles. Now some of these diff covers get kind of beat up. You can flatten them out and straighten them out. Early Fox bodies had steel diff covers. I'm not sure when they changed them. 93 Cobras have an aluminum diff cover, so you'll see them corrode, but they don't rust. Yummy. So, I'll tell you this, for a 27-year gear oil, it's pretty clean. So I'm going to move the camera, show you what this looks like, if y'all want to check it out. It's kind of surprising. All right, let's check this diff oil out. Like I said, this has been in here for 27 years. All right, so now a lot of people have never had a differential apart. So this is your center section. This tells you right here, it's a limited slip differential. It's got a locking pin in it. There's a center pin up here you have to take out to slide the axles in to remove the C-clips. I'll spin it real quick. Now, right here there's a lock bolt. It runs through the center pin. Now, this one appears it's never been out. Looks really good. A little dirty. Normally I'll take a little handheld torch. I'll heat it up right here, get it good and hot. This is again 5/16 or 8 mil, whichever your wrench fits the tightest. And it normally comes super easy. They use Loctite on those threads, so if you don't heat them up, 9 times out of 10 you can't get that thing loose. So I'm gonna go ahead and drain this fluid in that pan over there, get the pin out, and then pull the axles out. All right, so I got my pan. I'm gonna drain this nasty oil. Now I did raise up the jack stands a couple clicks, so I got some clearance when I roll the differential by hand, so it drains in the pan, not on the floor. See how nasty that is. It's actually not bad. Now there is a little metallic in there, and it could be some water too from setting. Like I said, this thing has been setting a super long time. Now as you're rotating this on the jack stands, be careful it don't fall off. I have had that happen. Yeah, nasty. All right, so I'm gonna leave this set upside down for a little bit. Let some of this 90 weight drain out of there, 140 or whatever this one's got in it. Then I'm gonna take, I got some, that cheap carb cleaner I got, bought those home today. I'm gonna go ahead and clean it up, heat the pin up, pull the pin, take the axles out, and show you how to remove axles. Again, if y'all watching the video, I appreciate it. A lot of people said, let's show us your work. I'm showing you my work. For those of you guys that have done these before, I understand, this might be boring to you. Again, I'm making this for people that don't know how to do this, have never taken one apart. This way they give them some idea how to pull an 8.8 rear end apart. So stay with me and we'll get these axles out. All right, I got the diff cleaned out with some brake cleaner, got the oil in the old pan. Now I'm gonna heat this center pin up with a little butane torch, got a 5/16 wrench and a hammer. I'm gonna tap it, try to do it one hand, show you how to do it. It's pretty easy as long as you heat that up. It's not that pin, they don't tighten that bolt down that tight. I've seen a lot of people round that bolt off or break that pin off trying to get it out. Most of the time it's pretty simple. So I'm gonna show you what this cleaned up. Now rear end that's been sitting this long, I'm gonna take the carrier out and check the bearings. I'm not gonna do it on camera, but I'm gonna do it once I get off the, if you can't take a carrier out, you just take the bolts loose, lift it up and check the bearings. See what these bearings looks like because it's been sitting for a long time. So let's check this out real quick. All right, so diff's really clean. Like I said, you got real nice metal. It is 308. If you can see that down in there, still got the original gears in it. All the paint was on the spider gears, so that's really good. The paint is still on some of the caps, if you can see the paint on the cap, so that's really nice. I've got a little surface rust. That's probably where this carrier was sitting with no oil above it for years and years and years. Just condensation and moisture causes that. That's why you want to check these carrier bearings, because they could be the same way. You could have some light surface rust. Now, if it's just light surface rust on your carrier bearings, hit it with a wire wheel, as long as it's not pitted, and also check the races and make sure they're not pitted. Like I said, I'm going to pull this out, check that out, and see what it looks like. That should take a few minutes. Might show you all that, maybe not. If it's really bad, I'll show it to you. If it's not a big deal, I'm not going to concern myself with it. But right now, what we're going to do, got my little torch here. I'll heat this up. So make sure your oil pan is over there, because you got them fumes and you can catch yourself on fire. You see that oil? I said you don't have to get this super hot. Most of the Loctite's on the bolt threads right about here, the first 5 or 6 threads of that bolt. I'm going to leave it on there for a minute or so. Let it get nice and warm. And then you can normally loosen it by hand, really, with a wrench. Alright. Torch don't want to shut off. There we go. Might help if I turn it the right direction. Sorry about that, my big old fat finger was in the way. So this is kind of loose. Let's see if I can do this with y'all on camera here. Get my little hammer over here. I said that wrench is kind of loose. I might not. I don't want to. Yeah. Let me get a 5/16, a 5 point. That's an 8 point. I don't want to use that. Hold on a second. All right. So I found the right wrench, right size. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch drive. This is a 8 mil because I need to make sure that it's square. I got it straight. I'm going to hold the wrench, and it just broke loose. That's pretty much that. Now, once you get the pin out of the bolt, like I said, I'll show you this bolt. It's probably still hot. You can see right here, Ford put Loctite on about the first 10 threads. So that's why most of the time they don't want to come out at all. Now, in order to get the pin, I'll turn it. Oops, she just fell. Now, roll the rear end, try to get the pin to fall up. Yeah, just like that. So that's the pin. You see how much brake cleaner still came out of that from down inside there? That's why make sure it's completely drained, because if you hit that with that torch, it's just going to go woof. And between me and you off camera, I had that happen just a little bit. So, yeah. So, all right. So this is probably one of my longest videos ever. For those of you who are still watching. Now, got the pin out. The axles are really easy. You just slide them in like so. So you just push the axle in like that. Up in here. You see that C-clip right there? Now, this is where you gotta be careful if the rear end housing is still in the car, because you can drop that C-clip down inside where the pinion bearing is at, and if it's in the car, it's a pain in the butt to get out. If the rear end's out of the car, it's super easy. Just flip the housing up, it'll fall out. So I don't really concern myself with the C-clips, getting them out, but I'll show you how they come out. Again, if it's in the car, get a magnetic screwdriver or a magnet, and it'll pull right out. There is a little rubber O-ring on the axle itself, so they don't just slide right out, but they come out pretty easy. All right. So I normally, let's see, you can see down in there. I normally turn the C-clip with the screwdriver, if you can see that. And it's about ready to fall out. And then once I get it to that point, I'll stick my hand up behind it. So I'm going to take off camera, take the C-clip out, and show you what that looks like. All right, C-clip's out. This is what it looks like. That's why they call it a C-clip. Now, the little rubber O-ring I was talking about is right there. And what you're essentially doing is you're pushing, oops, let's try this again. Essentially what you're doing is you're pushing the C-clip off of that axle, like that. So, yeah. Now, is the rubber grommet mandatory? It's there. I always put them back. But as you can see, when you push the thing forward, oh, okay. Always wondered about that. So, This side is tapered. There's an axle side, and then there's a carrier side. Yeah, learn something new every day. All right, now if you push it in, that bushing didn't come out, or that O-ring. If you put it in this way, well, it didn't come out that way either. Huh, maybe not. Trilogies of 8.8 rear ends. Okay, so now we got the axles out, center section is cleaned up. I'm gonna pull the diff, check the bearings. I'm gonna show you guys how to take the axle seal and bearing out all in one time using one tool. So I'm gonna go show you this tool real quick. Again, I apologize, this video is super long. Fast forward through it if you want. I'll show you this tool real quick. Now, it's called an axle bearing removal tool. It is a EverTough 67035. I thought it was OTC, but it's made by EverTough, as is the slide hammer you need for it as well. Now, I think you can rent these from like AutoZone or O'Reilly's. Some of these people may carry those, I'm not sure, but I'll show you what it looks like. Now, there's 3 different sizes, as you can tell. This one right here is the most beat up, so it's the one I use to take bearings out. Slide hammer slides up in here once you get it in the rear end. And I'll show you real quick how to set it up. We got more room over here. Move some stuff out of the way. Now, you got your bearing in there and the seal. This sets up in like this. We'll slide it up in there. You gotta pop it in behind the bearing, and then you tighten this nut down. So I'm not gonna bore you with that. I'm gonna tighten this down, set up the slide hammer, and then take it off. All right, so you might have had some video there that you weren't supposed to see, but oh well, it is what it is. So anyway, I got this set up. Let me show you what it looks like real quick and check it out. All right, so I got this set up right here. Now, always keep this right here tight. It's gonna loosen up when you're trying to pull the bearing and the seal at the same time. I'm gonna try to do this. Hold right here with my foot. Basically, you're just gonna slide it back. Now you see it gets loosened up. Now what that's doing is that's compressing the bearing into the seal. So I'm gonna pause the camera real quick, which I thought I did a little while ago, but I guess I didn't, and tighten it up some more. All right, so I got this set up. You see I got it out just a little bit so far. There you go. Now, you gotta make sure you have that tool in behind that bearing like that. And that's how it comes out. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So now, got one bearing out. I'm gonna show you how to take the bushing out of the center. And that'll be it for this video so far, long enough as it is. All right, so I got this set up a little bit. Hope you guys can watch. Now, I got my little cordless drill. You can use a regular drill, it don't matter. Just be careful. You're gonna take the drill and drill in around the center bushing until it goes all the way through. Now it will walk, and as you're pulling it out, I don't know if you've seen, the center pins actually go in the opposite direction. Now, see how that's almost out? Now, try to find a socket about the same size as the bushing, or the pin, the center pins. Looks like maybe a 12 mil, maybe. Yeah. What I'm gonna do is try to knock that out. Sometimes you may have to do it a couple of times with the drill bit. Just be careful, don't go too fast, because I've had these drill bits break, and that's not pretty. Now, I know people saying, oh, they make a tool for that. Yeah, I know. But this is for people that maybe don't have the tool laying around or it ain't handy. Now, I'm going to get some lube and put on there. Hold on a second. All right, I got a little bit of PB Blaster I'm going to put in there. Maybe help that pin push out. There So now my bushing has become a 12mm socket. You can grab that with a pair of vice grips if you want. Let me go get my vice grips. Alright, so I got me some vice grips, just clamped it on there. Just walk it out. Now to fix to that, maybe get a socket that's a little smaller. Now, we're going to do the same thing on the bushing on the outside. Again, be careful not to push too hard. Let the drill bit just do what it's going to do. And you'll see the drill bit on both sides of that. Just keep walking it. And then it's almost out. And there it goes. Popped right out. Now, be careful with these drill bits because they will break, especially if they're cheap drill bits. I said that's your bushing. Now, what we're going to do is take the Sawzall blade. Now, again, I know they make a tool for this, and it works. But for those who don't have a tool, and you're in a fix, in a bind, or whatever, take Sawzall blade, cut through this right here, and this just comes right out. Let me get that real quick, and I'll show you. All right, got my trusty Sawzall metal blade. Now, when you cut through it, be careful. You don't want to get too far and get to the rear end housing itself. Try to do this without killing myself today. I'll normally start right here on this lip and try to cut through it and then let it walk the rest of the way. Now as you're cutting, take a break once in a while and make sure to see how deep you're going through this bushing. Because a lot of times you don't even need to go all the way through it to relieve the pressure off that bushing to get it out of the housing. I don't have enough off of it yet. I'm all the way through now. Let's see. Oh, not quite yet. Still got a little resistance in the center. That should be about it. There it goes. See, I didn't even go all the way through the bushing. So the housing, look up in there real quick. Hold on a second. All right, we'll look up in the housing. You can see, nice and smooth. You might see a little bit on the end right there, but didn't even touch that. See the bushing right there? It didn't even go all the way through. Cool. So, for those of you watching the video, you want to see work? This is the nitty gritty, down and dirty stuff nobody wants to watch. Like I said, I'm doing this for people who've never taken an 8-point apart. Again, the bushings, if you're going to do it like this, be really careful. That's all I can tell you. Safety glasses, hearing protection. I've done a bunch of these, so I know how to walk them in easy and get them out without, you know, life or death, I guess. Now, I'm going to take off the caliper mounting brackets off the end of the rear end, the U-bolts, clean all them up. Next video, we're going to get the rear end cleaned up, sanded down, get it ready for primer and paint. But for today, all I wanted to show you is how to take it apart, get the bearings out, get the bushings out, show you the new parts I had. The difference between 93 Cobra, hard lines, soft lines versus SN stuff, and the price difference. NPD's got good access to lines. I've been noticing lately that LMR is kind of slacking. They only show like stainless lines now, not just the actual metal lines like they come from the factory. LMR is just selling the stainless kit, not the metal kit. Big difference in price there. Repo calipers, if you want to know about those or any other part numbers I have on the table, the tools I use to take it apart, anything I've done in this video so far, let me know. If you have watched this video, hey, that's awesome, the whole video, I appreciate that. More content to come on the nasty old rear end. It will look brand new when it goes back in. It will look amazing, I assure you. I'm going to take the carrier out right now, check the bearings. If they're bad, I'll show you guys how to tell if they're bad. If they're not, I'm not going to worry too much about it. But again, thanks for watching this video. Thanks for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. If you got any questions or comments, you can hit me up at foxjunk73@gmail.com or ask below. Oh yeah, son started his own YouTube channel, and some guys were giving him some grief for me putting his videos on my channel. I don't know why. But he's a Fox Body Junkie. He's doing a 93 GT if you want to check that out. He's doing a really good job on that car. Turned out amazing. It is a budget build. If anybody wants that, he's showing you where to buy cheap paint, cheap primer off Amazon and this and that stuff. Way more budget than I've ever done one. So, car's turning out amazing. Check that out. Again, thanks for watching. Subscribe to his channel. Watch his videos. Let me know what y'all think about this and everything else. And we're getting back on Frankenstang. We're going to get it knocked out and get it on the ground and get this thing painted and get it back together. This series has taken long enough. I've been sloughing long enough. I'm getting fat. Need to lose some weight. Again, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing.